All right, everyone. So this video, we're going to actually learn how to create a scatter plot. So that is our goal for this specific video. So notice this is the final result that we should get. This is how we're looking for a graph. Notice the titles. Notice the titles. Notice the equation. It has everything that we are looking for. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to show you how I got to here in a step-by-step process. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that graph, and this is pretty much it. So a scatter plot, well, what it does is it actually looks at the relationship between the independent and dependent variable. So for this particular study, right, we're looking for how time studying for a quiz affected the score of that quiz. So our independent variable, right, what affects the other? The independent affects the dependent. Our independent variable is our minutes studying. Okay, how did our minutes studying for the quiz affect the score on the quiz? Okay, so here are the numbers, right? What you would have to do. So notice about that score. So notice about the minutes. It's not 0 minutes, right? 0 minutes. You don't have units in it because Excel cannot read letters in order to do that graph, right? So make sure you only have the values. So all I did here was I went through the independent variable. I looked at my sheet, my data sheet, and I just typed in 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, so on and so forth. Then I went to the corresponding. So if there was 0 minutes studied, what was the score? So 0 minutes, 0 was a score, 5 minutes, 10, 20 was a score, so on and so forth. So I typed these in manually. Once I was done with that, the next thing I did was I highlighted both scores. Okay, so all you do is you hover over the top left and you highlight them, and you then go to inserting the scatter plot. So to get a scatter plot, right, to get the actual graph, what you have to do is go ahead and go to Insert, click on that, and then go to Charts. And then on Charts, there are these different options, right? So there's bar, there's line, there's pie. You want to make sure you hover over that scatter. So Insert Scatter. Click on Insert Scatter, and then it's going to give you different options. So you can do the scatter that has lines, the scatter that has lines and dots, so on and so forth. What we want is we want this clear scatter plot, because this one is comparing two sets of values, and that's exactly what we're doing. So go ahead and click on that one, have solely the dots, and then this empty graph shows up. Okay, now what we want on the graph, there's 5 things, and those 5 things that you want are all in this checkbox. Okay, so go to this add chart element, click on that, and then you're going to have all of these different chart elements pop up. We want 5 of them. Okay, the ones we want is this: axes, axes titles, make sure you have a check mark on that. Chart title, that has a check mark, that's good. Grid lines, yes. And then the last thing you want is a trend line. So go ahead and make sure you have that clicked. So again, the 5 things you want: axes, axes titles, chart title, grid lines, and trend line. Now that all of those are checked, we can then go and put meaning to our graph. So notice, right, when you add those, you have chart title, totally blank, axis title, totally blanked. Okay, so what is it that they mean, right? So this is what we want to do. So when you go to chart title, go ahead and hover over that, okay, and it's going to allow you to actually change the chart title. What we do when we write the chart title, okay, we always write down dependent versus the independent. Right? The chart title is letting us know how the relationship that you're assessing. Okay? So in this case, we're really looking at how the score of the quiz is affected, so versus the minutes studied. Okay? And that's what we have here. So now that you have the title, for the main title, we can go and change the axes titles. So notice this axis title, what it represents, it's the x-axis, and the x-axis is the independent variable. Okay, so I'm gonna say that one more time. The x-axis, this bottom, is the independent variable, so it's a minutes studying. Okay, so here we want to make sure we correspond that correctly. So on the bottom, you have minutes studied. And what were the units for that, right? So the units were in minutes. So make sure you have your units in parentheses. And then let's go ahead and change the y-axis title. So the y-axis is the score on the quiz. Okay. And that unit in parentheses were points. All right, awesome. So we have your axes titles, we have your main title, and now we're just missing one more thing, and that's what is this trend line actually telling us, right? So we need to have a little bit more information on that trend line. So one thing, and it was already populated because I had done it previously, but to get to that format, the chart that was on the right, what you want to do is you actually want to double click that trend line, and notice what it says, format trend line. Right? So when you do that, it's going to populate these three trend line options. You can have a line color option, you can have a shadow glow effect option, and then you can have a data option. You want to go to the data option. Okay, so when you click it, it might get you to that colored fill and line option. You want to go to the actual data option, and that's the 3 bars. So when you get to the 3 bars, go ahead and go to the very bottom and click on the display equation on chart. What that's going to do, it's going to populate this equation here. That equation is actually giving you information as to the relationship between the minutes studied and the score on the quiz. So notice it says y is equal to 1.8909x plus 9.94545. Okay, this is in y is equal to mx plus b format. And what that's doing is it's letting you know how the variables are related. So the y variable, right, in this case is the score on the quiz, right? So we want to change that y to represent what the equation is representing. So the score, I'm just going to say quiz score is going to equal 1.8909 times your minutes studied, and get rid of that x, plus 9.4545. Now that's pretty much how your final graph should look like. You have your axes titles, your main title, your equation with each of those variables changed for it to have meaning on your graph. All right, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and send me a remind or email me. But if you can get to the very end, if you could get to the very end of this graph in this video, that's what we're looking for all of your graphs. So thank you guys again. Let me know if you have any questions.